Okay, so we managed to get our virtual machines up and running using the cloud process of IBM Cloud PowerSC Manager earlier. We've now got our 2 virtual machines running, and we have got some virtual resources that are now allocated to my user, and so we could potentially be billing them if appropriate. So I can go over to PowerSC here. I can see my various sort of front page here with my couple of systems, and I can then go into the area where I can do endpoint admin, and I can see that I have got a new key store request come in here from my AIX client. Please boot it up with the appropriate code. So I can select him, I can generate a key store against this particular system, proceed with that kind of process, and that will allow him to be understood within PowerSC. So that's done, so that didn't take very long to be able to perform, so I can now go back and check within the endpoints. So now my new endpoint has turned up within my endpoints, so I can see him selected here, and so he's there and doing what he needs to do. Therefore I can now go over to my compliance area, and I can select this new endpoint that I have, my AIX client here. I can select him. I can take a new version of the security profile to him, so he's not had any applied to him yet, but I can go in and I can available profiles, and from my available list here I can go down and select there's a range available to me. What I'll use is the PCI version 3 to AIX default, select that as something I want to apply, and then I can simply apply profiles. This will then go through and make the necessary changes to that particular system to make him compliant to the payment card industry standard, and that just takes a button press to be able to do, and we'll roll through and do what it needs to do. So on my client, I can now just click on him after all, and I can just check against that he is still compliant. So it comes back with the rules passed, 77 rules passed, 0 failures against him, and I can look back on my front page. And I have 3 systems with 0 compliance failures, and the real-time events is also showing clear as well. So I will just go to the security view, and to be able to look at my view of this system. So my AIX client here is set up to be able to be running the real-time security compliance piece, and so we'll see if anything happens in that kind of space. So my AIX client is now showing all clear and compliant to what it needs to do. There's no real-time compliance events happening at this point. It should now be compliant to the payment card industry standard. But there's a bad man in this particular situation and example where there's a disgruntled employee presently has access to the servers with the root permission, but would like to set himself up with a back door. So that maybe he's going to be moving on into a different role at some point shortly, but wants to be able to get back into some other way when he no longer has this power. So let's go on to the My Box with the root password. So he has the power in here as root, and now what he's going to do is make a couple of changes to be able to give himself the power as his normal root user, the one he'd be able to come into without the sort of special privileges, to be able to do things that he shouldn't otherwise be able to do. So if I, for the moment after all, so I come in as my bad man user just to be able to give you an example of what is possible with his standard permissions. So at this pump settings, if he tries to shut down the box or reboot it at this pump settings, then he will get execute permission denied, which of course is perfectly normal and what he should be seeing. So we'll close that session down. Now back as my root user, because I have the ability to be able to make changes here that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do, I can go in and edit a couple of files. And that means that now as I come back in as my bad man user, I can access files I shouldn't be able to. I can potentially shut down the server if I wanted to. But what's happened is that I've been able to detect this change, so I can see when real time he has picked up the fact that I'm making this modification, that I can see the ET security user has changed, and therefore I can begin to react to that. How long, after all, otherwise would it be before I'd be able to detect that a change had been made? So that's demonstrating PowerSC being able to detect in real time changes that are not compliant to the payment card industry standard, and further standards are coming out in the future as well. Thanks for your time.